Hello. If you look online, you will probably find about 1 bajillion people talking about the military's most expensive and fancy weapon systems. I don't blame them. They're cool, flashy, and make for good content. But what about the cheapest? I think that deserves some love too. Today, we're going to talk about the humble concertina wire spool. We'll talk about how it's used, what makes it so damn effective, and how it manages to stop everything from scared privates to full-on main battle tanks, all with some cheap pointy metal bits. Then, at the end, I'll tell you how to defeat it. Triple strand the like and subscribe button and let's talk about it. Now, before I get too far into it, I know what you're thinking. Hey, retard, that's not the cheapest, because rocks are free, reusable, and you can throw them. Your video title sucks. And to that I say, please stop. You're hurting my feelings. I don't know anything about geology, and this isn't a channel about calculating a cosine or memorizing the capital cities in Europe, so we're just going to keep talking about C-wire. Concertina wire, or C-wire as most people call it, are rolls of double-coil helical razor wire made from galvanized steel. Now, worth noting, C-wire isn't the same as barbed wire that farmers use to keep cows from escaping. That wire pokes you. C-wire slices into you and snags you up. It is nasty. C-wire comes in strands that, when extended, stretch out 50 feet in length and have a diameter of 30 inches. Depending on market costs, each strand costs the DoD somewhere between $30 and $75 per, about half the cost of a Minecraft meal if you ordered it on Uber Eats. Also, fun fact, the Wikipedia page on the subject also connects you to the Slinky Wikipedia page. And now I want to see pushing a spool of C-wire down a hill like a slinky could be used as a new defensive tactic. But a single strand of C-wire ain't gonna do much. Mostly because, one, if it's just 50 feet, you can probably just walk around it unless your enemy has the pathfinding skills of an ant. And two, because all it takes to defeat a single strand, if you can't go around it, is to cut it. And if you do it right, you don't even need special tools. You can just use the pliers on a multi-tool. If you're tall enough, you can literally just step over it. And if you're a short king, just find something to throw on top of it and walk over that. That is obviously if the wire is installed correctly. In order to actually install C-wire, you have to anchor it down with stakes and secure it with barbed wire strands. People like to joke about losing their hearing from doing cool things like shooting rockets and being inside of tanks, but no one wants to really admit the majority of their hearing loss was from slamming posts into the ground. If C-wire isn't installed correctly, you can literally just grab it and move it out of the way, which does no one any good. But grabbing it in general is something you should still be careful with. Whenever you get a thing of C-wire, it usually comes with these specialized leather gloves with bits of metal attached that look like giant staples. Officially called wire gauntlets, which is a cool name for a piece of PPE, these gloves have so little dexterity that it makes you feel like you now have Lego claw hands. But it's better than getting military-grade tetanus on a Thursday afternoon. Now, given time and resource constraints, you might only be able to throw up a single strand of C-wire, which won't do much except briefly slow down whoever it is you're going up against. But it can still be dangerous if done correctly, and directly in the field of fire of a couple bubbas armed with machine guns, but it's not going to be enough to actually stop anyone. No, the real magic is when you start getting into double and ideally triple strand C-wire, which is exactly what it sounds like, being 3 strands combined into a single wall. The Army calls these kinds of things obstacles. Things like barbed wire, tank ditches, booby traps, mines, they're all considered obstacles. Specifically, they are reinforcing obstacles, because their job is to, quote, disrupt, fix, turn, or block movement. In layman's terms, that means that they slow down, trap, force them to go into a different direction, or stop them from continuing to advance forward. C-wire, when employed directly, is going to focus on the last 2 on that list. What that means is that it's going to physically stop someone from getting to a place or force them to take a different route to get there. In this scenario, I'm imagining trying to prevent a platoon of Uzbek special forces from reaching my beloved cache of tactical body pillows. You also don't need a full perimeter of C-wire. If you're trying to overlook a field, you can just have a few lines of barbed wire strewn across it. It will allow enemy troops to pass through, but disrupt their movement formation. Splitting up formations is a good way to make sure that it's a lot harder for them to mass fires on you, and just make controlling said formation a lot harder. Now you might look at a video or picture of sea wire and not think too much of it, but they can and do have psychological effects on soldiers. If you are moving towards an objective and you run into some sea wire, you know that the enemy knows that you are coming. They might not know you're there at that very moment, but they're probably going to have something ready to try to fight you off, and that they've had time to create defenses and wargame it a bit. Because they're often installed with some kind of anti-personnel mines with them, it adds another layer of mindfuckery on top of that. Is the left side of the wire rigged with a claymore, or the right? Or both? Probably the simplest mind trick that goes along with this is that wire fucking hurts. It is literally just a giant spool of miniature knives. Your lizard brain knows that if it runs into it, you're going to get stuck, which is bad, and it's going to slice into you, which is also bad. Lizard brain no likey pointy metal circle. A second part which might seem counterintuitive is that it does allow an enemy force to physically get to you. But what sea wire does is make an enemy force go where you want them to. If you completely block off an entire position, it becomes equally likely that they'll try to breach it at any given point. That makes planning a defense difficult. If you create a path of least resistance for them, it becomes a lot likelier that they'll attack at that point, and that's where you can focus your defenses. Now you might think, oh, I'll just drive over the wire with an IFV or something, flatten it out, and then drop my troops on the far side. But it will absolutely grind whatever your vehicle in to a halt. There are dedicated anti-vehicle emplacements called concertina roadblocks, which are typically 10 meters deep of wire. But even one strand run over is going to be enough to at least fuck something up. What you are seeing on screen is known doctrinally as a really bad fucking day. Now, if you are the least valuable person in a platoon, or your leadership has a decent sense of humor, you might be asked to conduct what's called a body breach. Breach meaning you gotta get through that wire, and body because that is what you're using to create said breach. Obviously, this is a last resort most times, and can come with some injuries from being trampled by a platoon of soldiers in full kit, but it does get the job done. Insert totally random shot change. You want to know what is basically the exact opposite of lying on top of a pile of concertina wire, lying on top of one of Brooklyn Bedding's incredible mattresses. Sleep and I have an abusive relationship. I love her, she ignores me, just like an actual woman. Having a good mattress has always been a high priority of mine because without it, I literally just cannot sleep. Brooklyn Bedding has been in the old mattress game for over 25 years and operates out of their factory located in the great state of Arizona. It's from that factory in Arizona that they ship your mattress directly to your front door, meaning you don't have to go to the brick and mortar money laundering schemes that are mattress stores and then pay a premium for a middleman to try to sell you an overpriced slab of memory foam. With Brooklyn Bedding, you get a premium, custom-made mattress without paying premium custom prices. I took their sleep quiz and figured out exactly what kind of mattress would fit me best. Being a side sleeper with the flexibility of a piece of rebar, I went with their signature hybrid mattress. And because I live in Texas, where it's hot a good portion of the year, I added on the cooling pillow top. I went with a queen size because I'm both tall and lonely, but you can get sizes from twin all the way up to RV king. I've had this for a couple weeks now, and I can tell you it blows my old mattress completely out of the water. My neck and shoulders don't hurt anymore, and my cat Miso has migrated from the couch to the mattress as her sleeping pad of choice. Plus, it didn't break the bank. With Brooklyn Bedding, you get a 120-night sleep trial and limited lifetime warranty. You get free delivery if you're living in the United States, and if you're like me and don't want weird health problems in 10 years, you can be assured these mattresses contain no fiberglass whatsoever, which you might have seen on the news or on TikTok or something, that it's something you need to keep an eye out to avoid. I love my Brooklyn Bedding mattress, and I think you will too. So make sure you check out my link, brooklynbedding.com/Justin Taylor, for 30% off if you use the code Justin Taylor. That's me. You can also use the QR code on screen or the link down in the description. Wire obstacles really got their start in the First World War, where miles of barbed wire were strewn about under the cover of darkness. Eventually, what started as repurposed fences, meant to keep cattle in, turned into one of the most prolific pieces of military gear across the world. And there's a lot you can do with wire than just stack it on top of itself. There's the low wire entanglement, the high wire entanglement, the double apron fence, tanglefoot if you really want to make someone miserable, and the Danish tangle, which sounds like it'd be one of those physiologically impossible sex positions on Urban Dictionary, but it's really just when you throw around barbed wire randomly. I'm not sure what Denmark has to do with this, but we appreciate their contribution. And of course, you have the true Cadillac of wire obstacles, the 11-row double apron fence. If you absolutely do not want someone to get to where you are, this is what you use. On top of all of these, if you have the resources, you're best off adding mines to them, creating what's called a mined wire obstacle. If I need to explain to you why adding mines to a wire obstacle creates a mined wire obstacle, then I probably accidentally hit the 4 kids button on the upload option for this video. One of the best things about C-Wire is that it's so easy to emplace. A trained engineer squad, according to Doctrine, lay about 1 kilometer of triple strand wire in about 4 hours. Consider you'd have multiple squads working at the same time, you could get a platoon's worth of engineers chugging along at 1 kilometer an hour, pending caffeine consumption and whether or not they were told they could go home when they were done or not. Defeating said wire obstacle can go from fairly easy on one end of the spectrum to bitch and a half on the other. We'll start with the simple ones and then build up to the more complex, scary ones. The simplest and smallest that you'll probably run into is a platoon-level wired obstacle. Ideally, you sneak up undetected, cut the wire, proof the lane for explosives, and then keep sneaking on through. But that's boring. Let's assume you have to get through that obstacle while under fire, and you're going to do that using the good old Battle Drill 8. Breach a mined wire obstacle. Now typically, if you're conducting this, it's going to be via a platoon of about 40 dudes, and you might have a squad of sappers attached to you to help with things. This also only really applies to something up to a triple strand wire. If you're a platoon and come across some seriously gnarly looking emplacements, odds are you're going up against something bigger than another platoon, and if you're going up against something bigger than a platoon, things have gone hilariously wrong in your plan, and your spouse is about to be $500,000 richer. Battle Drill 8 boils down to a simple little acronym called SOSRA, or Suppress, Obscure, Secure, Reduce, and Assault. Now, SOSRA is a video all on its own. Coincidentally, it's a video no one would watch. I would need to spend 10 minutes just talking about how to deconflict your actual support by fire with your local support by fire using terrain-based TRPs. So I'm just going to be going down the list of the acronym to keep things simple. First, you pin down, aka suppress, whoever is on the other side of that wire that is shooting at you, and not plussed up on the fact that you're trying to kill them. Ideally, you're going to be doing this with some kind of machine gun team. If you're not, I'm sure you have your reasons, but they're probably not good reasons. Once that's done, you're going to obscure, which is a fancy way of saying you're gonna chuck about half a dozen smoke grenades until you can't see shit, the enemy can't see shit, and you're praying to God that you remembered those little tiny spoon things on the end, because you have to turn that in to prove you didn't keister a smoke grenade to bring home and show off to the boys. Once that's done, you then secure, which is when you get to your breach point and have it locked down with additional gunfire. Because at this point, the original guys suppressing probably had to shift fire so they don't accidentally Pat Tillman you. Next is reduce, aka make a hole in said wire. If you have sappers, this is where they come in. They might try to cut through it with giant wire pliers. That's the simplest way, but creates the smallest hole to get through. The downside is the smaller the hole, the fewer people can get through it at one time, meaning you're vulnerable for longer. Sappers often bring in your mother as a consultant on how to get a lot of men through a small hole very quickly. Sometimes, rather than going to the wire, you bring the wire to you, hence the occasional use of grappling hooks to snag onto it. This lets you pull the wire closer to you and increases the tension on it, which makes it easier to cut. But sappers, being sappers, will usually go with the more explosive option if they can. Makes for better video content anyway. Finally, you have assault, which is the word the army chose to describe run through said hole you made, once the engineers said it was clear enough to move through it at least. But what about obstacles that you absolutely have to blow up if you intend to get through it in less than one business day? Enter the Bangalore torpedo, essentially a tube filled with explosives that takes out the wire and causes sympathetic explosions of any mines that would be rigged to it. I just like that they're called torpedoes. I just think it's a fun, playful name. And using the transitive property, that means that sappers occasionally take on the role of nuclear-powered submarines. And I like that. Sometimes, though, you don't have an actual Bangalore, so you'll see improvised ones made by sticking C4 into a wire post, using C-wire parts to blow up C-wire. I'm sure there's some metaphor in there about the human condition or something. But even if you don't make a dedicated Bangalore-style thing, there are about 10,000 different combinations of objects to shove C4 explosives into, hence why the spicy Play-Doh is so popular. But what if you come up against one of those Cadillac 11 deep double apron fence wire obstacles? You would experience the heat death of the universe before you manage to cut through this thing, and you'd need so many Bangalores that the army would run out of fence posts before you were done. That's when you bring out the APOBs, or Anti-Personnel Obstacle Breaching System. Designed to take out both large wire obstacles and small minefields, it is, in short, 2 backpacks filled with C4 charges wrapped in a rope that gets fired out via a little rocket. Rocket shoots over the wire and mines, C4 rope lands on everything, kaboom. But sometimes, even that's not enough. If you were a big boy unit like a battalion or brigade going up against another big boy battalion or brigade, the wire that you're going to have to be breaching isn't measured in yards, it's going to be measured in miles. When that happens, you have yourself what's known as a combined arms breach, one of the most difficult and dangerous missions that modern militaries can actually perform, second only to something like a contested beach landing. In those cases, you bring out the ABVs, Assault Breacher Vehicles. These are essentially Abrams with no gun, some extra armor, and 2 Mikliks on the back, aka mine-clearing lane charges. These are the bigger, older brothers of the APOB, and it's their job to clear a path big enough for entire brigades to push through. Their job is so dangerous that if you look in doctrine and the use of the ABV, every step of the process of deploying them starts out with, if the ABV is still alive. That's not even a joke. But that's what makes wire such a damn good piece of military equipment. With $1,000 worth of pointy metal coils and half a day of pounding posts into the ground, you can hold up an enemy force multiple times your size, force them to deplete limited, expensive breaching resources, and use that as a chance to inflict a disproportionately high level of casualties against them. In short, razor wire is a lot of bang for your buck. And on that note, thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.